You are listening to the I Choose My Best Life podcast with Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith, a show that is dedicated to helping you live fully, love boldly, and rest intentionally. For additional resources, visit ichoosemybestlife.com.
If you are feeling overwhelmed and in need of a break, I want to invite you on an experience like no other. This is our very first Rest and Renew cruise. It is happening January 16th through the 20th, 2025, aboard a luxurious, beautiful ship with Royal Caribbean. Imagine yourself sailing through turquoise waters with nothing but relaxation on the schedule. This isn't just a vacation. This is a water-bound rest retreat where you get an opportunity to reclaim your peace, enjoy worship sessions, inspiring workshops, and the delicious cuisine and locations that you'll experience on our adventure together. You get to indulge in some restorative activities based on the type of rest that you personally need to restore your body, mind, and spirit. Spaces are limited, so make sure you book your cabin now. You get the opportunity to choose if you want to have a private room or if you want to have a double room and share with your friends. We have all of this set up within our online system so you can secure your spot today before we close down registration on September 1st, 2024. So to get signed up, check out the link that is over in the show notes. And I can't wait to see you on the Rest and Renew cruise. Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Saundra, and you're listening to I Choose My Best Life. Today, I have with me Ana Megrelishvili, and she is going to be with us today sharing about how do we choose courage in the face of uncertainty and hard decisions and just really stepping up into the next level of what is available to us. So I want to start off by giving you, Ana, just a moment to share a little bit of your courage journey. How did this begin for you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And I'm excited to share my journey of really feeling stuck in my career and very unhappy to now really living my best life and feeling like my career is my hobby, feeling very fulfilled and happy. It was not an easy journey. I think for most people, and I was no different. You have to get so uncomfortable with your current situation when you finally realize, okay, it is time to change. And so I used a very specific technique to decide whether I'm ready to make the leap of faith and put my corporate job to go and find my calling. And I'll talk about it in a little bit. But through the process of quitting and just going on this journey, I went on a year-long sabbatical where I traveled to 12 different countries because I wasn't even sure if I wanted to live in the United States. I, in the process, wrote my book, Finding Courage to Change, started going on silent retreats, and then eventually had this vision to start the organization that I currently run called Christian Professionals Network Worldwide, where we really focus on building communities of like-minded individuals, and we focus a lot on philanthropy. So we currently also mentor the homeless in the greater Atlanta area.
I thought something that was really interesting about your journey for me is that you started off really not in a Christian faith environment. You actually state that you started off your journey as an atheist. So that's the first change that happened in your life, is that internal spiritual change. How did that begin? Where did you get intercepted with the gospel?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I came originally from Eastern Europe, and I was not at all interested in faith or religion. I was living my best life, climbing the corporate ladder, living my life. And I had this big goal when I came to this country, right? The American dream. And my dream was to buy this beautiful condo in the middle of the large city overseeing the skyscrapers. And so finally my dream came true and I purchased my condo in March of 2020. And then I spent thousands of dollars renovating it. And then a month later, I move in. And it's beautiful, exactly how I envisioned it. And a month goes by, not more than a month. I'm sitting on the couch and suddenly I feel this feeling of, now what? I thought that I would be happy because this was my big goal. And then I didn't feel fulfilled again. And so I was like, I can't continue like this, always going after the next big purchase, having short-term pleasure and only being disappointed at the end. And so that kind of started this thought process, like there has to be more to life than this. And I was really wrestling with that for months. And then unexpectedly, it was October of 2020. I woke up in the middle of the night and I've never prayed at all ever in my life. But that particular night, I felt compelled to pray and I didn't really know how to pray. So I did something like, God, if you exist, what's the purpose of this life? Why do I keep feeling this way? What is my purpose and calling? And what preceded was quite unexpected. I actually heard an audible voice, which freaked me out because I'm an extremely logical person. And the voice told me, go to the store, pack the lunches, and feed the hungry. So I don't know how, but I managed to go to sleep because I was like, I'm going to deal with this in the morning. I don't know what's happening here. So the next morning I wake up and I feel, yes, there was something that happened last night and I have to see it through. So I called the office and said, I'm not coming into work today. And instead I followed the voice directions and went to the store, purchased lunches, started giving lunches away downtown Atlanta every time I would see a homeless person. And after about an hour, I came across a whole group hanging out together, a group of homeless people. And so I stopped, had exact number of lunches left, gave them all out, thought I was done for the day. I was about to get in my car when one of the homeless ladies called me and she said, honey, come over here. So I walk over and she says, I have a gift for you. And I'm thinking in my head, wow, I should be giving you more than lunch and you have a gift for me. And so she next looks through all of her belongings. She had this big bag of all of her belongings until she finally finds this little bird. And it was this bird made out of clay and it was a sparrow. And when I looked at it, then I saw that on its chest, it was written, now in God's hands. And something happened in that moment and I just burst into tears. And I got in my car sobbing. And the only thought that was running through my head was, God is real. God is real. God is talking to me. And so that completely changed my life and turned my worldview upside down and that's how I went from being an atheist to knowing that God is real.
Oh, wow. That was not what I was expecting you to say. Everything from the faith, because in the moment that you heard this audible voice, you really did not have a faith system at that time. You
Correct.
were just moving in obedience till something happened here. Let me just try it and see what happens.
Right.
And God was leading you in an experience to really see that He is real and He's in the details of your life. I absolutely love that. And so from that point, because at that point you're coming into a faith system, how did you, because there's lots of faith systems out there, how did Christianity become the system that you felt was the truth of who God is and how to proceed with your faith journey?
I don't have a logical explanation except that particular day, as soon as I got home, I ordered my first Bible from Amazon. And so the next day when the Bible arrived in the mail, I started reading it cover to cover and really trying to understand. And then I literally Googled best churches in Atlanta, like you would find a restaurant at church based on recommendations and started going. And then something was just like moving. And I started to understand what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. And the biggest aha moment for me was that it's not all about me. And so there I was, always putting myself first, my career first, traveling, living the best life. I was making so much money in my career as a single woman that I just never needed to take care of anybody but myself. And suddenly it's, oh, this is much bigger than me. And so a year later, I actually got baptized. And then a few months later, I quit my corporate job because what started happening is this unfulfilling feeling of I'm in sales, really not contributing to the greater good of the world. And I felt like my gifts were wasted. And I wanted to have a meaningful contribution to this world. And I didn't feel like that was in my career, but I didn't know what else was supposed to do. And so I quit my job and I went on this year-long sabbatical. And in that moment, I realized that I have worked every day of my life since I was 18. And I only chose this career because I grew up very poor, not having food, having to steal food, like just horrible, low income upbringing. And so my only motivator was wealth acquisition. And so I went after careers that would provide for that, but never slowed down to know what is it that I truly want to do and what's my calling and what would I do. You always hear people say, oh, if I won lottery tomorrow, I would still work for free. And I thought that this was just something that happens to very few people. And here I am currently right now feeling the same way. And so I feel like coming to know God and coming in faith really started shaping who I truly was and having the courage to find my authentic self for the first time.
I absolutely love how you describe that because I feel like it is speaking to so many people who are in that situation, who, for whatever reason, chose careers or avenues for revenue generation. And they may have liked some aspects of that because I think all of us tend to, you find things that you feel like you're good at as far as what you're going to be doing for your career. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's in alignment with your kingdom purpose or it's in alignment with your ultimate God vision for your life. And so I would love to hear from you for someone who is maybe in that situation right now, who's in a corporate career or in something where it really was just a head decision. It was not a heart or spirit decision. Their head said, this is a good job, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
How do you take that first leap of faith? Because
Mhm.
it does take courage to leave a 9 to 5 regular job where you're getting all your money from a company to saying, "Oh God, this is what you want me to do? Okay, I'll try that." And I don't know how it's going to work out. How
Mhm.
do we bridge that confidence needed to have that kind of courage?
Absolutely. First, let me say it's not easy. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But one thing that I want to break is there is a certain stereotype that if you were to fulfill God's purpose for you, it has to be in the ministry job. That's not always the case. So let's just make that clear that it doesn't necessarily mean that God wants you to go and be a pastor or work for a church or being in some sort of ministry. I truly believe that God gives us unique gifts and he wants us to use it specifically in the area. So you could be an accountant and then you could use your gifts for God's kingdom, no, utilizing your accounting skills. Like right now in our foundation, we have a Christian accountant, right? And she felt called and outside of her work to really help nonprofits with her skills. So this is just one of the examples, and they could apply to any particular industry and vocation that you hold. So that's one. And two, so I went through a specific process, and I hope that this tool will help your listeners as you go through this process. So my goal was to find my purpose. So I wrote down on this piece of paper, find my purpose. And then I had a column of worst case scenario, what would happen, right? And so quitting your job is very scary because you think, oh, what if I don't find my purpose? What if I won't be able to pay my bills and all these things, right? And so you write the worst case. I'm going to be homeless. I am not going to find it. It's like scariest thing. Write it down on the paper, okay? And then on the right side, put best case scenario of what would happen, right? Oh, I'll do this. I'll travel the world. I'll have a time off. So I wrote down all these things. So it got so uncomfortable for me to feeling so unfulfilled, and that the scary list didn't seem so scary. It was scarier for me to be stuck in the life of regret when I'm at the end of my life, thinking I should have taken that chance of finding my purpose. And so I just took a leap of faith. And I tell you, it felt like I jumped up the cliff right into just the unknown. It was scary. I never ever in my life not had a job. So I understand like some of you might be giving like chills just thinking about it. But I want you to know that I still have that list. The worst case scenarios never even came true. And the best case scenario that I wrote down was not even half of what I've achieved. Like I just didn't even dream big enough for what has happened. I never dreamed I would be a published author. I never dreamed I would be a public speaker. I never dreamed I would be building this strong community. I never dreamed I would be mentoring homeless and providing hope for them for the future. And this all happened in a year and a half, right? It's a very much condensed timeline because when you're truly aligned with your purpose, it's much a smoother ride. Doors open, connections happen, opportunities start flowing. And so you just start living life unlike like I've ever experienced. It almost felt like I existed before and now finally I'm living.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And that is the journey that I myself as well have experienced with God in stepping out of my 20-year career as a physician. And I didn't hear an audible voice. I had more of an internal voice that
Mhm.
spoke to me and said, this season's over. And it was devastating in the moment because that was the only career I had ever dreamed of having. And I loved it. And it wasn't merely like a financial decision. I love medicine and I love caring for people. But I had gotten my identity wrapped up into that white coat and it had to be separated. It had become an idol for me. And so it's something that had to be detached from my heart so that God could show me other areas of my identity in Him that was not related to my career, my profession, and the doing, which was a big part of my
Yeah.
issue, really getting an appreciation of just being who God created me to be. I think when hearing your story, one of the things that comes to mind, and I think that some people may even struggle with some when they're in that in between, seeing the manifestation of it where everything is like coming together easily and that leap of faith into, okay, I'm going into the unknown, is that when there are periods of time during that where you have to continue to hold firm to what you believe God has said. So
Absolutely.
when you have the uprising that it comes when you step out in faith, what are some tips you would give to someone so that they stay in their place of courage and that the winds and the waves don't take them under?
Absolutely. And you make excellent points because I've gone through same thing where it took me almost a year to figure out what my purpose was. It wasn't immediate. So I don't want, you to think that it was all breezy. I was going all over the world. I was exploring, trying to figure out what is that I wanted. And I spent that time to really find healing. I had the first time opportunity to really go back where I was from in Eastern Europe and reconcile with my past. And that was really growth opportunities. So it's not only about what's in the future, it's also reconciling, forgiving, healing the past. We all have our past, and that's an important door to close, so to say, so that you can continue forward without all that baggage. So I focused a lot on that. One of the things that I always advise is the practice that I've adopted about 2 years ago, and I do it every 3 to 4 months, is I go on silent retreats. And so a lot of the things that I'm telling you about happened during those silent retreats. What ends up happening in today's world, we're so interconnected. We constantly are on our phones and we have obligations. I ask people, when was the last time you walked into a room and nothing was expected of you? And most people say, oh, when I was a child, right? Because as an adult, there's always some sort of expectation of us. when you go on silent retreats, you leave those expectations at the door, right? You're not expected to talk to anybody. You're disconnected. There's no phones. And all you are expected to do is just really be one-on-one with God and seek his guidance. And my book, Finding Courage to Change, I wrote in 2 days at the first silent retreat I've ever gone to. And it felt almost like divine download. I just sat and it was just, the book came together. And I said, okay, God, is that a healing process for me, or is that something that you want other people to know? And the answer was, no, you need to publish it. And I never thought I would be an author. So I started praying about, okay, should I self-publish? Should I send to publishers? And God smiled, and the message was, how about option C? You don't need to do anything. Just keep telling people about it. I will send a person who will help you. And I wrote this book in October. In February, I'm having coffee with a friend, telling her about my experience. And she said, oh, we're going to this networking event. I will introduce you to my friend who helped me self-publish my book. I had to do zero effort to get this book published. And I tell this story because a lot of people always say, I don't have time to take 5 days, 3 days out of my busy schedule to go and be in silence at the monastery or in the nature. And I say, I cannot afford it because everything gets done so much faster and with less effort when you really truly seek God's guidance. And so that was the first example with the book. Second silent retreat, God gave me the vision of everything I'm doing right now with my organization. I'm just really stewarding his vision for what he wanted to fulfill on this earth. And I'm just the shepherd, so to say. Again, he showed me the business plan. He showed me where it's going to grow. All I need to do is now continue seeking his guidance and see what happens. And so most people get just shocked of how fast we went through everything. So in the last silent retreat was in May. That's when God said, okay, it's time to start the foundation, and that foundation for mentoring the homeless. Most of the time, IRS paperwork takes 3 to 6 months to be approved for the 501(c) status. We got ours in 2 weeks. If that's not God's favor, I don't know what is, right? Most people are just blown away, but these are just multiple examples of when you really truly follow God's voice, just incredible things happen. And I'm actually going on another silent retreat next weekend because I'm about to basically make another important decision. And I never make important decisions without seeking God's voice. But what it allows to do is really be aligned, because you can get from point A and point B like this, meandering all over, or it can be a straight line. And you can get there much faster with God's guidance.
I absolutely love this. And I want to give people kind of some practicality, so to speak, with this thought of a silent retreat, because I think oftentimes when people think of a silent retreat, the thought process is, oh, I'm just going to rest and relax and to unwind. But the way you describe this is in the resting, which is something that's really important in my life, but in the resting, it opens you up to actually have better clarity and better communion and conversation with God. So when you do these silent retreats, just take us through 2 things. Take us through the type of locations you do these at. Is it like at a hotel or at a resort, or and so after that, the locale, what is the kind of the process of what you do? Are you not speaking to anybody, or what does that look like when you go on a silent retreat?
So I would advise for those who've never done it, every state has monasteries where you could go and on the silent retreat. So whatever state you're in, just kind of Google monasteries around me. And then when you go on their website, you'll see they will have silent retreats. And there's weekend silent retreats, and then there's week-long silent retreats. So what ends up happening, I would advise to go also because everybody there is on a silent retreat. So the expectation is nobody talks. And that's exactly what happens. You don't talk the entire time. And the other plots of it is that you have pre-cooked meals 3 times a day. So you don't have to worry about meals or anything. You just know when you need to show up and eat, and everybody eats in silence. And then typically they have really large grounds where you can go out in the nature, because really it's good to be in the nature. God is really present there and you can feel it. This is the practice of active rest. So you're not just sleeping and just enjoying your time off. You're truly seeking God's voice. This is what it ends up happening. The first kind of day and a half, I call it the detox days, because we don't even realize how much we carry every day. Once you get in the environment where you know nothing is expected of me, suddenly you will feel so tired, like you've just worked in the fields all day for days. Sometimes I sleep the first day almost 16 hours. I just don't know what happens. And I've asked other people and they all confirm that this kind of happens to them too. And you detoxing it, because this is the first time you don't talk. Your thoughts might be all scrambled, but something magical happens after about a day and a half. Suddenly there's almost this peace that comes over and you're finally ready to start receiving. So you shed all the necessary things that you've been carrying, and suddenly you're there to really seek guidance. And so I spend a lot of time in the nature, just walking for a long extended period of time. Sometimes I sit in the prayer garden and just really seek God's guidance. And I was really lucky that I had two big signs that God showed me, because I think He really knew I needed it. So I had my whole kind of Damascus Road experience that brought me to Him. But then I started really craving it. And so on my third silent retreat, God was really quiet and I was getting really frustrated. Like, why am I not hearing anything? Why am I not experiencing all the signs or visions or something? And it was interesting. On the third or fourth day, I was sitting in the prayer garden and suddenly there was this quiet voice that comes and says, no more signs will be given to you. Now that your faith is strong enough, you need to seek my voice in quiet places. And so that was a very aha moment for me, is that I've been really craving and seeking and getting for that high that you experience of having God given signs, where I was going to silent retreat for that reason. But now my faith was strong enough where I did not need to do that anymore. I needed to really seek His voice in quiet places and determine when it's Him talking versus me and my thoughts. So I could not recommend silent retreats. And as I more and more talk about it, more and more Christians start going, and I hear the same. Once you start, it's difficult to stop. It's an amazing experience.
We are chatting with Ana Megrelishvili. She is the author of the book Find Courage to Change. And she also has a network for Christian professionals worldwide. And I'd love for you, in our couple of moments we have left, share a little bit about your network and how people can connect with you to learn more.
Absolutely. Yes, we have our network here in Atlanta, but we are ambitiously planning to open up new chapters all over the United States and really unite Christians of all denominations so that we can meet each other and really have positive impact on our community. If you would like to learn more and even interested in starting a chapter in your community, you can go on our website. It's cpnworldwide.com and learn more about us.
Anna, thank you so much. This is so valuable. And I think there are a lot of people who are in need of one of those silent retreats. And I love how you shared just your journey with them, how they have transformed your life, how they've helped add to your ability to manage change in a way that allows you to continue to have courage in the process, even with the unknowns and all of the parts of that. And I think just the practicality of this conversation is very helpful for that person who may have been questioning what their next step is. I think for some, that next step may be some time just alone with God in the silence and allowing Him to pour into them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just would say one last closing thoughts is that if you are someone right now listening to this, it's probably not by chance. And so all you need is just ask a simple prayer, is God, just show me what my purpose is. And I promise God is not going to be quiet if you're truly wanting his voice and his guidance in what's your purpose.
Amen. Thank you for that, Ana. Until next time, everyone, live fully, love boldly, and rest intentional.